Hello and welcome to the Ride It Out podcast, the official podcast of Summernats, the world's wildest car festival. My name's Jay Benz and I'm joined by my mate Owen Webb, aka Webby. What's happening, mate?
Mate, I've had another fantastic week, and how good was it last Thursday with the Ring brothers? They're such interesting guys building some awesome cars, and I just think we're so fortunate to have access to some of the best car builders in the world. Speaking of that, we're going to have two of Australia's best on the show tonight.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed that interview you did on Thursday, Webby. That was some great insight into, some of the best car builders, literally in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was really good. And just such personal and such humble guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everyone, get busy in the comments for your chance to win some Summernats season passes as usual and a major prize of a Summernats double pass and a Street Machine merch pack. These will be given away through the YouTube comments, so get commenting on there and I'll be giving those away later in the show. Also, don't forget that entrant cutoff to save big on Summernats entry for Summernats 34 is May 31. We've got over 1,000 entries for Summernats so far. It was sold out last year and it will sell out again. So be sure to get your Summernats 34 entries in before May 31 to save big. All right, tonight's show kicks off with one of Australia's top painters and top car judges, Rachael Durbridge, who will be joined by Summernats 30 Grand Champion Mark Happy Williams. Then after that, we have Summernats Elite Royalty Howard Astill and Summernats Burnout Royalty Gary Myers. Owen, what a show.
Mate, I just can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic show tonight.
Absolutely. Well, let's kick it off with a skid break and we'll be back after that with Mark and Rachael.
Skid ad.
This skid ad is brought to you by Rare Spares.
Who doesn't love skids?
And then there was the reigning champ out of Portland in New South Wales in this absolute monster truck. This is Blown Lux, and if you've never seen this thing before, check this out.
This thing is just a pure smoke machine. Got the exhaust set up so it just blows the smoke up into the crowd. Monstrous amounts of smoke. His instant, constant and volume smoke scores are usually 9s, 9.5s every day of the week. And this is no exception. Lost him already.
Bought this car as a second-year apprentice. Did its first ever burnout with a 4-cylinder in it. And goodness me, how it's just continued to grow in every meaning of the word.
It's making some serious horsepower. 540 cubic inch, big block chef blown injected. That's turning 31, 33-inch mud diggers on the back of this thing. That's why it makes so much smoke.
He actually knocks all-wheel drive tyres off it. It is like nothing else we have going around the burnout circuit in this country. Where is he?
We can't see him. The judges will know what's going on. They'll be able to hear where he is and see what he's doing.
Could be on track here to back up last year's championship.
Big smoke scores. Just needs to keep moving around the pad so he can pick up as much score in the driving skill category.
All right, we're back after a mad skid break here with Mark Happy Williams and Rachael. What's happening, guys?
Hey, going good. Just another Tuesday night.
Another Tuesday night after working on cars all day. It's been a good day.
Yeah, mad.
Hey, welcome aboard, guys. So good to have you. So I've got a few questions to shoot at you guys. So, Mark, I want to know how you got into cars.
Oh, geez, that was I was a home from the womb, you would say. Early on in the days, Dad was well into cars and he had a whole heap of hotted up things. And Vauxhall Viva was his first one with twin Webbers, and then worked his way up to VL turbos and VRSSs and VHSSs through the way. And I just happened to love him going sideways as a great dad, living on farms and bits and pieces. And I just got bred right into it, loved it.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting, we sort of ask that question of most people, and it's nearly always goes right back to almost when they were born. So it's almost born into us, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, totally. From when I was 6 years old, started driving cars on our cousin's farm that we used to live on, and accidentally slipped off the clutch like most people do at 6 years old on the gravel roads and went, gee, sideways is fun. This is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about you, Rach? How'd you get into cars?
Pretty much the same thing. I just grew up with the brothers, mainly my middle brother Chris. So we're both the middle children, so we're like the outcast ones. So yeah, we just grew up always always doing something on every single weekend in the cars and garages, hanging out with mates. And then as soon as I could do that, I realised that going through school, if I could do the only one thing I loved, which was cars and art, then I figured spray painting was the best job in the world. So continue that forever.
So what did you do when you left school? Did you do an apprenticeship?
I went straight into an apprenticeship, and I also had like 3 other jobs at the same time. So I worked scrutineering at AIR in Adelaide as well, doing spotting and scrutineering on track. So that was another like a bit of fun stuff to do with cars, and just tried to anything to do with cars on the weekends and working. Just kept pushing through. Gave up netball to go work on cars on Saturday instead.
Good choice. Good choice.
So I know you worked in a paddle shop and spray painter, but I know you do a lot of custom painting. So I'm guessing that's probably where your real passion lies. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Custom paint is my passion. That probably grew from when I was really little. I used to always nag my pop to draw all the time, and I just always kept drawing, and I've always loved drawing, and I figured if I can go art and cars, and that's why when I started doing normal smash repair stuff, to go into resto, and then I figured I could teach myself how to do graphics and art with paint, and then from there I watched the Americans and what they're doing, and they just knock it out of the ballpark. So just Googled heaps of stuff that they do and try and just create stuff and do better.
Right, just to ask you, what have you found more challenging? Have you found the custom side of it, or working like the I guess painting or the custom painting stuff?
The resto is really challenging because you got to try and recreate what the customer actually wants. But apart from that, the custom side of things is trying to get into someone's brain and figure out what they actually want and put it on there and hope that they're happy at the end. But most people give me a clean slate and go, you know what you're doing, and just go for it.
Yeah, that's good. So, Mark, what do you do when you're not working on cars? What's your job?
Well, I work away in the mines. I've been an operator for nearly 20 years. I drive 650-ton diggers and dozers and graders, loaders, everything pretty much. And I drove road trains for a few years and supervised through Centurion Transport, taught people how to drive road trains. Love driving 3 and 4 trailers. It's just a very peaceful driving setup, that is. And then my trade is an auto electrician, which I don't do anymore, but that's what I started out of school in, and loved it for a little while, and then more into the fabrication side of things. I found my love in that side of it later on.
So you like fly in, fly out? You're away?
Yeah, fly in, fly out. We're struggling through this dilemma that's going on at the moment, and
I'll bet.
Yeah, everyone's had to double their shift rosters and stay away from their families a lot longer to reduce their flying. So it's a bit tough at home, and I'm lucky I'm on a good roster, and I work with autonomous trucks and all that sort of thing these days. And so my roster's 2 and 2 at the moment. So it's actually a great roster. So it's good.
Mate, that must be why your relationship with Rach is so strong. You're away for a week at least a week at a time.
Well, yeah, she'd probably prefer me away 4 weeks at a time.
No, I won't. I just need a couple of days to figure out how much to clean up the workshop before he gets home, because I make a fair mess.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I ask you, Mark? Obviously you're driving some pretty powerful cars, but it must be pretty intense to drive a road train as well, right? That must be a pretty intense feeling.
The only way I used to put it to the guys that were learning with us, I'd say you just try to imagine something that you can turn around and nearly touch the arse when you're driving in front of it. And you're driving a circle and you can see the rear end of the other end of it, and you go, that's pretty impressive.
There's a lot of mass movement going on there. I imagine it's pretty.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, especially up the northern side of WA. You're allowed 4 trailers.
Wow.
And it's just fantastic. I used to drive over to all the mine sites down gravel roads with 4 trailers and load it up with all sorts of stuff from cars to massive machinery, all the mining equipment and run floats, and it's just something fantastic that you get involved in, and you meet some awesome people. Truckers rule the world, they really do.
It must make driving to Kingswood feel like a little kid's toy, right? So
well, I'll tell you what, I think the steering of a Kingswood's heavier.
Hey, Rach, you're guys, you know, I've been involved in judging for a long time, and I've always loved bringing new people through, and you're definitely one of the new breed of judges. So tell us how you got into that, and how are you enjoying it?
I absolutely love judging. It's one of those things in a lifetime that you don't actually expect will happen, but it did, and I thank everyone that helped me get there. When I first put my first contact feelers out for doing the kind of role, going over to Red Centre was my first initial, what's the word for it?
Your debut.
Yeah, that just a test to see if I could be good enough. And obviously that's where I met you for the first time, and yeah, you were just like, meeting you was like just blown away. So that was amazing. And straight from that,
right.
It was.
That changed your life. It's also changed your life in other ways as well, didn't it?
It did. That's where we met. So.
Yeah.
See, everything happens for a reason.
Were you just driving past in a road train there, Mark? Is that how?
Yeah. Just floating by, and a few months later, when how you going?
I just needed a lift in. I didn't ask for a full-time thing, but hey.
No, look at since you've been on board, it's you've done a fantastic job, and I know that you're well respected out there already at such a young age. So yeah, you're going to have a great career in judging, correct?
Really
sure is. She's made a big mark in the WA scene over here. She has. So painting some cool stuff at the moment.
Yeah, it's great. Hey, Mark, speaking of that, you came from behind with the driving events back in Summer 2017. So just tell us a bit about that and how did it feel being grand champion?
Well, that was a fairly big one. Going into that was really emotional. If anyone knew that story, it was pretty hard felt, and it was my mum was right there the whole way through and just waiting to see what happened. We were just hoping for top 60, and we pushed for so long, and as soon as the top 60 ran out and Dad wasn't there, it was very emotional, and the old swords behind us here in the pool room. So it's pride of place there, and coming into the top 60 and knowing that the talent and the cars that were there it's going to be a very tough feat, and it wasn't really something that I thought I was going to get anywhere near it, but you got to be in it to win it, and the car was tough enough and it drove well, and I've been driving it for a long time, so you've got to put everything on the line and drive it as hard as it can. It's not just drive out there being a pretty car. It's got a lot of the guys go out there just thinking just drive it around the track and come home safe, and it's not. You've got to put that foot through the floor.
Yeah, as you did, and you were one of the first guys to win from outside of the top. I think probably the first guy to win from outside the top 20. And just from my memory, I think you were either first and second in both of those driving events, and that was just enough to get you over the line. So I was wrapped. It was a great result all round.
It was a big shock, I can tell you that much. When I thought when Gareth Locker's young girl, she's jumped in the car and said, "Can I go out on the end with you?" And I went, "Oh, I can't believe we're going out at the end. We must have got third." And I was over the moon dancing around out the front before we came out onto the last three, and then called out that spot. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was great. So
no, I think you cried from memory, and I just thought it's such an emotional thing. And look, we've interviewed a couple of champions, and it is like a lot of people. That's just what they work for their whole life, and it's such an emotional thing, isn't it?
It's you watch. I said to Rachael many times, I thought I'd never even see a sword, let alone have my own. So, and it's in the car industry, Summonats, the grand champion was what I was aiming for one day, and never thought I'd get there. But the sword is, to me, it's like the Brownlow. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's a Brownlow of our sport, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I sit at, because I like to drive it. I'm not more the static type of person. I still drive the car and take it down the coast and go cruising in it and all that sort of thing. And it's got a few upgrades coming. And then never know, I might end up coming back to Red Centre and popping over maybe to Motorex one day once I clean it up a little bit more and that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of that, I actually wanted to make a point. I remember, I think the following year after that, you got to Red Centre, and then you went north and you stopped at quite a few towns and took a few kids and stuff for a run round. Tell us about that. That was unreal.
Yeah, mate of mine, Aaron, and I both decided, instead of going the same way home, decided to go up to Darwin and towed the car all the way up to Darwin and over the top end of WA and down, and we pulled the car out, and a couple of little kids and that came around the car and took them for laps and over to Coral Bay, and then Coral Bay and Kalbarri, and pulled it out there, and young kids just loved it. So there's a couple of painters there, and they were all excited. So they all sat in there and got photos, and didn't worry me one bit. Like, it's all about breeding all the young ones and getting them all involved in the car scene. So it's really good.
Yeah, that's a really, really good thing to do. I remember talking to Rach about it and you, and I just thought it was such a cool thing to do.
Yeah,
and speaking of cool things,
I'll never forget it.
No, I'll never forget that sort of stuff, Josh. And it promotes our sport, and it's awesome. Rach, speaking of cool things, what are you working on?
Of my own.
About time.
So cool.
We're getting
About
an
time.
exclusive.
Well, the biggest car I've ever touched, probably. Yeah, the thing's a monster. So the C10 63 panel truck. She's in its been finally primed. It's last stages now, so I've probably got a couple more weeks before I've got one more respray to do in between then, and then once I've done my customer's respray, I can do my own. So I'm pretty excited. I can get away from the workshop.
It's looking amazing too. We look at it all day long, and she's done such a great job, and she's worked her butt off in between everyone else's stuff, and she's killing it. It's looking beautiful. And lowered it. She's been involved in lowering it 5 inches and sat it all down, and we've maybe going through a bit of engineering later on and bagging it in bits and pieces, but she's done an amazing job on this car. It's going to look so cool.
You and Danny from WA Suspension did all the hard work with that, and they took very good care of my baby. And they've, like, as soon as it came back off the tow truck, I was very, very impressed. I absolutely love it.
And look, that truck scene is just so huge in the US, and it's now really starting to take off here. So they're just such a cool thing, aren't they?
Yeah, they're amazing. And a couple of the boys over here, they've already got them and buying more, and it's just getting bigger. So we can't always go cruising together, and I don't know how we're all going to fit on the road over here, but, you know.
They're a foot wider than a Kingswood. I couldn't believe it.
But I've got my little monkey bike matched up as well, so that's going to go in the back of that as well, so I can go cruising down the coast, get the monkey bike out, cruise down that.
What I think I love about that model of ute and stuff in that scene is that no two look the same in the utes. They're all so custom, you know.
Yeah,
they surely are. All the grills, and she's got the good one. She loves the one. The 63 is where it stopped with the wraparound front windscreen.
Yeah,
so you'll notice a lot more, and then all the other guys have all got the 64 onwards, and the 63 just kills it with that wraparound front window. It's beautiful.
Yeah, wow.
When are you going to have that done, Rach? When will it be done?
I'm going to say...
Tomorrow.
Yeah. For a free weekend.
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Well, I've got, in 2 weekends, I've got a respray, and then 2 weekends after that, I can do mine. So probably about a month.
Awesome.
Yeah,
do you reckon you'll
have no fingers left?
You're going to head across the Nullarbor with it one day?
Yeah, I reckon I will. Because it's
awesome.
really
awesome.
It's just a paint job. I can just do another one.
See, I'm asking you all these questions, so now I've got you on file, and I can hold you to that now.
Now I'm dedicated. Awesome. Yeah, now I have to pull my finger out.
We might drive 2 over.
So what's the future hold for you guys? What's going on?
Oh, lots in the car scene.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't even keep up with our own brains at the moment. They spiral out of control every now and again. But
Mark keeps buying more panel vans, more panel vans, more panel vans. We're trying to outdo each other with how much room we can have.
Yeah, we're fighting over garage space at the moment, which has never been a problem ever before.
I like it. Most couples fight over their bed space. You're fighting over garage space. I love it.
Yeah.
What's that?
We'd both sleep in swags if we could park them in the bedroom.
I said the first night that the Chevy truck comes home, I'll park in the garage, but I'm still probably going to sleep in the back of it just so I can.
And you're doing a bit of bit of stuff for 3M, and you're doing quite a bit of stuff for some of the corporates, aren't you? You're much wanted.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone actually wants me, but
oh God, that's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, just before the whole COVID-19 thing started up, I was just set with everything booked in to go to Sydney and do the filming for 3M and the new Upstarters coming up and showing some tech videos with the 3M and products and how to do some spray painting techniques and all that through properly. Rob from
Rides by Cam.
Rides by Cam.
Yeah.
He's been doing all the panel videos and whatnot, and then watching some other tech videos with the younger kids already doing their thing. So can't wait to actually finally get over there and do that. That'll be really handy.
Well, just remember when you become really famous, just remember us and still come and judge for us. All right? Is that all right?
You are the first on the list always, no matter what.
All good. All right, guys. So anything else you want to cover off there, Josh? And we'll let these guys get going.
I was just going to say, I love just seeing two passionate people about the scene. Like it's true blue. I guess, and I really love the fact, Mark, you got your goal. Like you thought you'd never get. Probably and Rach, that the fact that you've turned in what something you wanted to get into to be the master of your trade. And well respected Australia wide.
Absolutely.
I know that Webby, when we had Webby before you come on the interview, Webby would stop raving about how good of a judge you are and all that kind of stuff. So
I only learn from the best, and that'll keep growing because I believe that you never know everything. So I'll continue.
Absolutely, that's so true.
We'll all right, guys. Thanks. We have to get the video edited to keep Webby's head in the cam.
No, it's not about me. It's about you guys.
He deserves all the praise, and so do you guys. Yeah.
It's about all the young guys, and fantastic. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time and having you guys on. Thank you.
Thank you very
awesome
much.
to see you guys. Thanks heaps.
See you guys. Have a good night.
Catch ya. See ya.
Skid ad.
This skid ad is brought to you by...
Here we go, Rick Fuller. This man was third last year at Summonats 30 in the Burnout Masters. He's drawn position number 4 with LS1. Very capable of taking home the win if all goes to plan. Oh, hello, Sneaky Pete. Throws down an early donut to say, hey, the blowing guys, I can throw down early donuts just like the aspirated cars.
And the judges will notice that. And smoke scores, Jason, you'd have to say very, very impressive right now. Instant smoke, constant smoke, volume of smoke, tick, tick, tick.
Absolutely. He's working a beautiful line here. And you can see from our spider cam view that he has absolutely smoked that in as well. Comes out of what we call framing the shot, where you've just got a backdrop of white smoke and the car is perfectly positioned. Now, he's throwing down early donuts. He's been to the bottom end of the pad. He's come back up to the top, and he's going to finish off right here in the centre of our donut pad as well.
2 times this man has finished third at the Masters. He's been all around Australia. He's skidded in Darwin, Perth, Cairns, just about every corner, and he comes back to the nation's capital in style.
All right, we're back with 2 Summonats legend, Howard Astill, who was a multi-time Grand Champion winner at Summonats, and Gary Myers, Burnout Master winner and Burnout World Champion. 2 legends. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, mate.
Yeah, good, Josh. Webby.
Yeah, good to see you guys. And look, always thanks for your time. And Gary, firstly, I want to know how you got into cars.
Well, yeah, the old man was a bit of a Ford head, and growing up, the old man Fix Furchy, he was a technician for PMG, which was Telstra and Telecom. So he sort of always fixed. We had a small 10-acre hobby farm, and so he would work on custom lines and all sorts of V8s, sort of trucks, tractors, everything. So that's pretty well where I got into it, and especially Narrandera. It was the street machine. It was the street machine hot rod nationals, which was combined with the street machines, was held here in Narrandera. And I can remember when I was a kid, running around uptown and watching all the hot rods cruise around. So, and I've been pretty close to, the scene, Narrandera. It's pretty central, to all what's going around.
And it was a big deal back in the day. I remember actually coming to the 77 Street Rod Nationals in Narrandera. Yeah, it was a fantastic event. Yeah, there you go. And Howard, you living out at Broken Hill, how did you get into cars?
Pretty much similar story. My dad raced boats, hill climb, pretty much anything with an engine. So, yeah, I was always around what we're doing. And then my dad got involved in a Ford dealership with a couple other guys when I was probably 14. And then when I used to, on school holidays, I'd work there, washing cars and stuff. And I actually started my career in a Ford dealership in spare parts. So was always around the cars, but always, loved it. I can remember at school, watching the XYs and stuff at Bathurst, and just always been part of it.
Yeah. What's your first Summer Nats memory?
Summer Nats, well, probably before that was like the 86 Nationals, or actually the 82 Nationals at Canberra. We went over, my mate Fuzzy and I went over when we had the panel vans in the day. But because of the distance and all, we grabbed a hire car with the partners then that are now our wives, and went over for the 82, and then back in 86 with the Burgundy car, the first car. But I'd done 4 years in the panel van side of things, mainly down through Victoria. So we'd go, I think the first big show I went to was the 77 Van Nationals in Mildura. And then we followed the circuit. We'd go to Bendigo, Adelaide, anywhere sort of down south from Broken Hill for probably 3 years, and then had the family. So the van went, and I bought the sedan and started doing the sedan. And then that was then to get to the 86 Nationals.
Yeah, unreal. That's interesting. I went to that same event in Mildura, so I didn't know you then, but that was interesting.
No.
You were really, in my mind, one of the first guys to really push the boundaries with elite builds. Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd go to a show, and back in the day, especially the hot rod shows back in the day, you could go and talk to the judges afterwards, and they were very, very honest and frank, and would sit down with the score sheets and tell you where you went and where the car that beat you, might have been better in a certain area, and tell you to go away and have a look and those sorts of things. So my philosophy, especially when we got to a point where we were starting to compete with Ronnie Barclay, was whatever you thought everyone else was doing, you needed to do 10% more. So if that meant you were going to detail under your wheel arches, there's no good doing them black, you need to do them body colour. And it just evolved with it a little bit more and a little bit more, a bit cleaner, a bit sharper, a bit nicer. And then when you were sick of doing it, you go, right, Ronnie's already done that much, now I've got to do 10% more. And that was always the philosophy.
Did it feel like 10% more, or felt like 50% more, just to get that,
It was just doing, because and Gary would know, when he did the Bullet, we were in the process of moving over here from Broken Hill over to Wollongong, and we'd drop in and try and give you a bit of encouragement, because you just get so down going through the process that when you really had enough, you've just got to do a bit more. That little bit more to make sure that whatever you was trying to achieve, you actually got what you wanted out of it. I mean, nowadays, it doesn't matter what you think, you just got to do more than you ever imagined. I mean, when the sort of on tailspin is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute, but something you said there, Gary's obviously really well known for the Burnout scene, but a lot of people probably don't even realise that he had the top car in the country. So tell us a bit about the Bullet there, Gary.
Yeah, the Silver Bullet sort of, obviously, looking at Howard's bills and all that sort of stuff, and then I thought, well, I think I'm going to have a crack at building an elite car, but I still never was going to go that full mile with it, but with Howard and John Taverna pushing me, and actually you too, Owen. So I just it wasn't that much more effort to go that full mile on it, you know. So it wasn't like drawing a line and saying that, okay, it was a 2-year build, but it ran out to 3 years, that car. So, but that was because of, just making sure everything was, all the crosses were ticked and,
That was an awesome car. And you mentioned there, John Taverna. He obviously had a...
Yeah, well, John bought the car for me in the US, and it was only a 6-cylinder Mustang, and I paid $6,000 for that car off John back then, and then getting back to Howard, Howard was travelling through from Broken Hill to Wollongong, and Howard actually come and stayed here for a week, and I think we achieved putting doing the boot lid in reverse on it, and I think we used some Meteor bonnet hinges or boot hinges or something at the time, and then he had a lot of input with the bonnet and cutting out the bonnet and that. So that was great help.
It's one of those stories where you say, "I'll just do whatever you want," and he goes, "Oh, well, I think we'll cut the hole in the bonnet. It's probably the job we make the most."
Mate, there was no bonnet left on that car, from my memory.
And it was a brand new bonnet too.
Yeah, just for the people that didn't know, that was the first car with twin blowers on it, eh? So, yeah,
it was, and we probably held some good accolades with that, Owen. We obviously won grand champion on debuting it at Summernats, so I think we were the first person to ever win grand champion debuting it at Summernats and going for grand champion. So especially on, they normally used to show them for 12 months and then drive them, but we got out there and got straight into it.
Was that your goal, Gary, from the start with that car to try and achieve that grand champion feat?
No, it was probably... No, the grand champion sort of didn't really come into play with it. I think definitely, obviously, we won car of the show there, and I think, and then I think Owen pushed us against it. Should go for grand champion. So, okay.
I can remember what happened. It was Owen and I were there saying, right, get it going, and it had no bloody water in it.
I didn't have water in it. We ended up firing it up, and exactly. So,
they give you a hand to put some water in it. I said, you got to do it. You'd won People's Choice and you'd won Top Judge, so it's almost a walk up unless you totally stuff the events up, and that was never going to happen because that's what you do. So it was a no-brainer.
So where is that car now, Gary?
Yeah, I sold it to an ex-football player, AFL foot player, down into Shepparton. So the car ended up in Shepparton for quite a few years. Perry Mecca bought the car off me, and he sort of used the car in the hot rod scene, and he was sort of, it didn't go down too well, and he ended up swapping it for a Ferrari off Queen Street in Sydney. So then the car sort of, it got used for a couple of, like if you even Google up bloody the Silver Bullet wedding, it's in a wedding at Queen Street in Sydney, driving around the streets in Sydney. So, and then as far as I know, it got sold into the Queen Street, sold it into the US, and it has changed quite a few hands in the US over the last couple of years. So, it's still out and about.
Yeah. So obviously that was a big deal for you, but I'm guessing a couple of other big deals would have been winning the Burnout Masters and the World Burnout Champion. Would that be correct?
Yeah. It was pretty well all the, it changed from just the Burnout, World Burnout Masters, I think, from memory, but it changed quite a few times of the way it was brought across. So, but I loved, it was always nervous competing. at summer nats, and but yeah, once you get out there, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the pinnacle. What would be the pinnacle for you? Would it be winning Grand Champion or Burnout Masters?
Probably 2000 was probably a good year. I think I won 2000 and 2001. I won 3 years in a row. I'm not quite sure. I think that was in the 90s, where I was the only one to win it 3 years in a row. So, yeah, I don't know how many times I've won it, but quite a few. I think seven overall.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and Howard, you won Grand Champion in '97. Was that your pinnacle moment, or what do you think?
There's been a few. I mean, when we did the Fairlane, that was a deal I did with Street Machine, and there was a requirement for the car to be built so they could give it away. So we were under a massive amount of pressure, and it was like a 9-month build to build an individually constructed vehicle. So by the time we got to the Nats, it really wasn't finished. And then we did the driving events, did everything, and on the Sunday night they used to do the presentations for Grand Champion. So I'd sort of wandered in there to find out who'd won. They used to have a band and stuff playing in the hall, like in Building B. So I've wandered in to see who won, and then when they called my name out, I just went to pieces. I mean, I had no concept that we even had a chance, but we'd done well in a couple of the driving events. Car made top 10, must have done half all right in the People's Choice. So that was probably the most emotional I've been, because of just how it come about, and I had no expectation, where normally if you build something, I normally go there with an expectation I might do it right. So on that particular occasion, that just brought me undone. And then the other one, when we did the dedication with the flag, which obviously you were heavily involved in when my mate got killed, to go up and get that top judge trophy, the emotion from that is still with me today. I mean, that just brought it all, all together at once, and you really struggle to keep it together. But I mean, we've been there for so many years, all of us, that there's so many good times and so many things. To try and pull one little thing out of it's just about impossible.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And like even your involvement with a car like Tailspin, I'm sure that was rewarding as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, Tailspin was probably more about Motorex than Summer Nats. It was one of those heartbreaking ones. I mean, to go down to the Burnout track to be, in the top 3 with a very good expectation of winning Grand Champion, and then the thing won't start. With the heat, the emotions from that was just unbelievable. We'd put in about 5 years, I think, on that car. The relationship that we built up between Heather and I and Adam and Kylie was like, they're like our kids now. It's just been that bigger. So for that to happen was really almost unbearable. And then the other side of that is for it to win Grand Master and win 7 gold was just incredible. Just you can't put that into words. And I mean, I put a huge amount of my own time into that car because I could see where it was going, and I knew how much passion they had for the car to just get it to that end. And I don't know how many hours. I probably put 1,000 hours of my own time into it to make some of the things extra special that I know you need to try and win those sort of awards.
Yeah.
No doubt it takes a lot of I really like the craziness of the design, but then like the detailing's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would have been nice for that car to have been, a 49 sloper or something that was a full genuine custom car with that amount of detail. Rather than it really was a love it or hate it car. For a whole lot of reasons, and the amount of time people say, "Oh, what do you think of it?" So, well, it's not my choice of car, but I just did my best work that I could do to achieve the result that we're trying to achieve. And at the end of the day, it did achieve that. And not only that, it's registered, they drive it, and it came back here to go to Motorex this year for the 20th anniversary. And it's held up incredibly well. And I just did a few touch-ups where they've been driving it on it for them, and some detail work. And they just love the car to death. They do their club runs in it. They really enjoy the car, and they love the car. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
That's the win, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Howard, you had so many modified cars, and I just over the last few years, a few people would have noticed your Mustang, the XA, and the XB or EXB that you built. More of a resto mod or actually fully restored cars. What do you like doing best? Is there either full custom or what?
Probably me personally, I'm a full custom, cut it up type of person.
That's what I would have thought. Yeah, that's why I asked that question.
But I mean, what a lot of people never understood probably is that I had my show car that I put in a trailer and took to shows to try and win trophies. And then I always had my other car that normally Heather drove or whatever. That was our daily and our modified car for the street, which is a totally different animal. I mean, they're two different cars. So cars I've been building really is trying to do my best work for what the customer wants. And in most cases, they've had a car that is collectible, so they don't really want to modify the body, even though they get me to straighten them and do the gaps and all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, if it's a GT, so there was, Cool Mint, Blackmans, and then the two Cobras, all of the bodies on those are pretty much original bodies, but some of them, one had a 700 horsepower with a 6-speed, another had, a full built engine with a 5-speed Tremec, different wheels, different brakes, but they could always put them back to what they wanted. 400, Cobra 400 was a different story where we were trying to build to our best ability that car back to original. And what I often say to people was I was actually trying to make it look like a new car, not like a restored car. And too often I see really well restored cars that are too good in the sense of the paint, especially nowadays with the 2-pack paints. So the air cleaners were never full gloss from the factory. They were shiny, but they weren't full gloss. So you really got to bring everything back 10% in relation to the shine so that it looks right. And then getting the right plug leads and ends, that all the wiring's right and the clips on the wiring and all that sort of stuff. I did a huge amount of research and was lucky to find a Cobra with only 14,000 Ks on it that still had the original brake pads and those sorts of things, where I could photograph how the front brakes, the bolts were wired. Because everyone has a different philosophy on how the wiring went through the bolts, the safety wire. Does it go this way or that one? I can see Gary smiling because he probably pulled plenty of them off in his day.
Exactly.
But if I said to him, which way did it go? You sort of go, oh shit, I don't know. And then was it black wire? Was it CAD wire? How thick was it? So all that sort of stuff. I just did a lot of research and found a lot of photographs of my own and other cars that before they were cut up, before they were serviced basically, to then go about trying to put that car back together. And the biggest thing when we debuted at Summer Nats was everyone said it just looks like a brand new car, and that was our goal. So that sort of fulfilled our goal.
How do you get it when you build a car like your own car? Do you get attached to them, or you? Not
particularly. I mean, once they're done, they're done. I mean, I kept the Mustang for 10 years and then eventually sold it because I really wasn't using it as much as it deserved. And then when I did, I used to take it up. I'd go up to Power Cruise and rake the living hell out of it and have a ball because it was built to do that. Gary actually built the motor in that, which was a little 302 Windsor that was a rocket ship. And I'd go up there. Actually, the best one is Phil Kurjan. I took him for a ride, and then he won't get back in it. He would get back in there. He reckons I'm crazy. And I said, you reckon I'm crazy? You're the tipping king. And he wouldn't get back in it. But people don't necessarily know that side of me, but I'm not a burnout guy. I don't mind going and have a look, but I'm not a burnout guy myself. I prefer to go faster around the track and, stop and go. And more like a touring car style of thing. So that's what the Mustang was built for. So, all the show cars were built to win trophies and then get rid of it and move on, get something else and have another go.
Can I ask you a question? When a customer comes to you and wants to build a car, is it generally end up a mix of their flavour and then your experience, or does it you always sort of move towards they want and just they end up getting what you think's is it a mix?
Yeah, I normally do a sit down and we do a couple of them initially, and it's a matter of writing down what they want and going through the process. And normally it's not overly difficult, but like when we did Venom, the Cobra, I wanted him just to put the original front end back in it. I said to him, if we do it all brand new, it will handle, everything will work fine. But he wanted RRS. So, because whether he knew or friends are telling him, oh, it'll handle better or do this better. So that's customer choice. So, you put it in. Like with my van, I'm going to run the standard front end with Bilsteins and decent springs and a decent sway bar.
Yeah,
and
fine.
I believe it's sufficient. But there's a lot of people out there that want a car that ticks the boxes. So, yes, I've got 700. Yes, I've got a 5-speed. Yes, I've got a strange centre. Yes, I've got billet axles. I've got 20s or 19s or whatever size they want. So, my role is to fulfill their dream, if you like. The current car I'm doing, which is absolutely over the top, the owner, I went through and supplied him with probably a 10-page spreadsheet on all the mods and stuff that we talked about, and then probably 50% of those he pretty much said, I leave it to you. So that's the first build a car where it's like, okay, he's leaving it to me, so I come up with options and then pass that back by him and it comes back. So there's a lot of to and fro in relation to how the car gets developed to achieve the goal we're after. And it always amazes me, everyone that comes to me says, I just want a street car. And I go, well, we better go somewhere else, because obviously if we start doing the thing, you'll be able to drive it on the street, but it ain't going to be a street car. So the first thing is to determine what their goals are. If they want to win trophies, then I say, which one? There's a lot of difference between winning Grand Champion or judge at Summer Nats or winning Motor X or going and winning the Hot Rod Show, because they've all got slightly different skews and way they're judged. And the judges themselves change. So with my history and everything that I've done, you need to build a car. And I used to always talk about when I built the Pioneer Coupe, we put the bars from the door pillars down to the front, down past by the radiator like a race car, and we called them the Johnny Taverna bars. Because Johnny told me that when I built the Fairlane, it wasn't strong enough, even though it was engineered and it was all tested, torsional rigidity tested the whole lot, it should have had bars. So the fact that I wanted to get good points in engineering, we put Johnny Taverna bars in.
I remember that well.
So it's about knowing the system and then building the car for the system if you want to just do judging. If you want a street car, and I was talking to Owen off camera earlier about building a car and then the time it takes to get it really streetable and everything working, and on hot days, cold days, all those different things that make a car that becomes a good street car. Pretty rare it comes out of the box first time and everything's sweet.
No doubt, it's a very, very different criteria between the street car and the show car, like down to lots of small things.
That's exactly right. And Howard, without blowing smoke up you there, you're actually one of the people that actually takes the time to understand the system, talk to the right people, and then you can build the car accordingly. So
when we did Tailspin, we really wanted to do a textured floor on it. And I spoke to Owen, I spoke to Johnny Aristis and said this was the direction I'd like to go, because I think that's where the whole game needs to go. And pretty much told if you do that, you're going to lose points. So full gloss it is. We were looking for maximum points. So I wanted to do the same car but put a textured finish on it. So it would probably be more difficult to do because you can't polish it afterwards.
Right.
But where the judging criteria sat at the time, and I mean, Street Elite's made some inroads in having an effect on top judged in Superstars, because people are looking when you finish spending that sort of money. And I mean, we've seen some really big dollar cars in the last 5 years. You really don't want a car at the end of that you can't use.
Yeah, and that's why we brought in Street Elite. It's exactly right. Hey, Gaz, I've just been sitting here thinking there's a question I want to ask you, because I asked this to Jake. I want to know who's the better driver, you or Jake?
Well, he's driving the Mustang a lot better than me, so I'd say definitely Jake.
Oh, don't tell him that.
We've actually just fitted an RRS power steering on the car just to make it a little bit easier for him, because since after his accident, when he broke his arm, back at Summonats 30. Yeah, he sort of it took a couple of years to sort of. He still hasn't got full strength in the arm, but yeah, sometimes he'd go out and say, yeah, no, everything's good, and then he'd come back whinging it, the car's not handling doing that. Well, it never bloody handled back when I used to skid it, so it was like you're lucky 1 out of 10. Yeah, so that's probably why the burnout comps were so slow back in the day, because you had plenty of time to bloody not stuff up, I suppose. But now it's just all about tipping and how fast, and that's why I've sort of stepped back a little bit, because trying to keep up with the boys today, it's sort of I'm happy to just sit on the bloody curb, mate, and watching do it.
And that was going to be my next question. So your future's sit back a bit and obviously help him out with his new car and just sort of guide Jake a bit?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I sort of have passed the Mustang down to Jake, but I will get it back once he gets his new ride happening, and I think we'll just probably put it back as a really tough street car. Probably a big cube Windsor in it. Jake's wanting to put a turbo on it and a Pro Charger and all this, but no, I want to just I just want a nice, as long as it does good power skids, that's where I still get a bit buzz out of doing power skids, and we're hanging to. I'm actually getting 2 Insane back out, and we're taking it up to Northern Nats, and it's probably one of the best tracks up there. Obviously, the drag strip up there, and I've won probably 3 of the 4 power skids up there, both in the XA and 2 Insane. And probably 550 metre power skids. That's where I get my adrenaline from. So, and it's quite funny. Some of the Burnout boys, I've offered jump in the car, because you can actually take a passenger, which is sort of spins people out. It just, it's just, to me, it's just, it's just another, power skid. But for someone that, can jump in a car and, got 1,000 horsepower and just, smoking the hides, 500 metres, it's sort of, it's pretty out there.
Can I ask, Gary, when you first bought your original Mustang, the one you bought when you were very young, what was it? The guy you bought it off, did he know you were going to do stuff like that with the car?
Okay, my first, I think I was 15 or around 16. I bought an XB GS Ute, was my first car. Then I traded that in on a ZA Fairlane, which had a 351 Windsor in it. Then I swapped that with my brother for an XA 252V top loader XA coupe. Now, that XA coupe would have been the Mustang today, but Russ, because back then, I was only an apprentice mechanic, and Russ was coming out. It was a car sold brand new at Wagga at the Hillis Ford in Wagga. And the thing was with them coupes, they were left out in the rain on the assembly line. And that's why they reckon they were such a rust bucket, because they were rusted when they were in just bare metal. But this coupe started to get rust in the pillars and roof, and I thought, man, I was chasing repairs on it all the time. So I sold the car, and me and my dad jumped in a car and went down to Sydney, and we went down to look at a 66 Cougar, and we got down there and it was sold. I'm pretty glad that we didn't buy a 66 Cougar, because it's a pretty ugly car.
Exactly.
So we grabbed the Sydney Morning Herald, and the Mustang was, I paid $7,000 for it. I saved up, I think, $3,000, and I borrowed $4,000, and come home the following weekend. Come home, organised the loan through the Commonwealth Bank, and then went down the following weekend and paid $7,000 for the old girl. I was only 17 when I bought that car, and drove it back. And Joe Flaherty, I still remember the dude I bought it off, Joe Flaherty, and he he ran into me up at Cooley Rocks here quite a few years ago and bought me some photos of when he had it, just before I got it, obviously. And it looked pretty weird. He had JF number plates on it. So so that's a bit of history of the Mustang. And
a couple of different little factors in Mustang might not have even been. Might not have.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it would have been an XA coupe if I went down that path. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm coupe crazy. I've got to say, I've still got 7 coupes stashed away, so I want to get around to restoring those. And I don't know when my John Goss 2-door. It's probably only if I had a full month on it, the car would be finished. But I just can't find that time, even though in these times I've been just doing a lot of maintenance on trucks and trailers and everything else. So it's pretty full on.
Look out, Howard, he'll be knocking on your door, mate. Just keep your door closed.
I've got plenty of rust parts for all them cars, mate.
Don't worry, I got a nice little stash of parts, and that's why I won't sell anything until I get all these restorations out of the way, and then I can sell off the parts, and hopefully, I can retire happily.
I hear you fix a lot of the rust in the XA to XC coupes, Howard.
Yeah, Howard does.
But I got a whole range of parts now, but it's interesting what you say about the rust, because it's actually the sealant that they used to put them together. Anywhere that the cars were spot welded, they put a sealant on it, and I don't know what's in that sealant. It's what causes the rust. When you pull the panels apart, if you take a bonnet apart, wherever that sealant is, that's where the rust is. So whatever's in it, that's what's eating them out from the inside out.
And the sedans are the same, because I remember working on them. And
they might have got a former Holden employee on the line, and he switched up the glue. The sealer was something else.
I don't think they're too fast. It's all bare metal as well. Where the sealant is, it's bare metal, then the sealant, then spot welded, and it's
Hey Howard, next time you're in Narrandera, you'll have to come and check out this XA coupe. It's only a XA Falcon 500. I've had it for 30 odd years. I paid $800 for it. But honestly, this car, I reckon it's the rarest car out there because it has no rust in it. It hasn't got an ounce of rust in this XA coupe, and it's just a 6-cylinder, 4-speed Falcon 500. So I don't know why it never rusted out like the others did.
The ones I've seen with no rust had the Ming treatment. So has it got all the holes drilled in it for the rust?
I wouldn't have a clue. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, if you have a look, sort of, and it depends who did them, but they've got little plastic plugs in the openings and stuff. And it was like a product by Ming, the company, and I've done a couple of cars that was processed with that, and they don't have any rust. But all the others, they're just hopeless. Yeah.
All right.
So when I happen to be just driving past Narrandera.
Come in.
Just around the corner.
All right, guys, we've got to wrap this up. So, look, I thank you so much for your time. It's been just awesome chatting with both of you guys, and a lot of history there, and fantastic. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Howard. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, guys. See you guys.
See ya.
Catch you later.
Bye.
All right, so we're going to look at a Summonats moment in history, Owen, at the moment.
Yes, I believe we've gone back to we started off in the first few podcasts with some big moments, and this is a huge moment, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we've had him on the podcast a few episodes ago. You might know him, obviously, as Lynchy. He's one of the most popular dudes in the Burnout scene. How about his Burnout at Summonats 28, where he did a triple tip-in 360, call it what you want. It was absolutely insane. Jack, you want to roll the tape and remind everybody of such a crazy skid and a great time in Summonats history?
Where's all the Lynchy fans? And the like rollers go like this. He's not going loose Lynchy for no reason. He is one of the wildest, naturally aspirated cars in the country. LS Power. He went through some unbelievable amount of engines in 2013 and 2014. And that's the reason why he loves the limiter. He should be called Limited Lynchy. We'll do that from now on. Oh, he's loose though. He's still loose. Limited and loose, or loose limited. Whatever you like. Here we go.
This skid-ad is brought to you by Anest Iwater. Ernest Iwater.
Seaman, loose cue. In fact, issues where we're not seeing Jason Schmidt. He drew number 5. It's now number 6. Jack Seaman in the Masters for the very first time out of Wagga Wagga. This blown injected small block makes around 1,000 horsepower. And that's to the rear tyres. So far, so good for Jack. He delivers a nice, hard, fast tip in. And again, another of these drivers to go straight down into the bottom end exit chute. Spin it around and then to bring it back straight across the donut pad up towards the start line. Effectively a straight line burnout so far with a 180. Now, like we saw from Matt James, he will no doubt finish off this performance right there, dead centre of our donut pad. The Polytron Lubricants donut pad, of course, is where the action is at. Right here at Street Machine Summonats 31, and Jack Seaman absolutely smoking in the pad, the grandstand and all the crowd.
We've got 5 first-time finalists in the 10 today and 4 rookies. Incredible.
All right, we're back from the mad skid break. It's time for the competition. This week we're giving away a bottle of Maguire's Hybrid Ceramic Liquid Wax. There's probably half a bottle left. Webby's been using it on his own car.
You got it. It was great stuff, mate.
Perfect. What's the question for the competition next week, mate?
All right. If the people should have been listening to that last interview, they'll actually know this because I want to know, where is Gary Meyer's Silver Bullet Mustang now? So when you know that answer, or you think you know the answer, shoot it to us at podcast@summonats.com.au.
No worries, and we'll give that half a bottle of Maguire's Hybrid Ceramic Liquid Wax away. Talking about giveaways, we're going to give away some passes from people who have been commenting in the YouTube comments. We're giving away 3 single passes and 1 double season pass, and the Street Machine merch pack, which comes with a whole bunch of stuff. We're very thankful to the guys at Street Machine Magazine for that. All right, the winners are for the season passes are Michael Benson and Fletcher Barron. So, in the double pass and the Street Machine merch pack goes to Jono 2019. So, those guys, congratulations. Please email a podcast@summonats.com.au. I said we're giving away 3, but we just gave away 2. So I don't know how that's gone great, but apparently we're giving away 2. There you go. All right, we're going to we want you guys to send us some photos too from cars, stuff that you've been doing during the week in terms of our hashtag Ride It Out Tag, we want pictures of working on your car in the garage, or going for a bit of a drive, since you're allowed to get out a little bit now. Give us a bit of an insight into what you've been up to with your car or in your shed. So please email us at podcast@summonats.com.au. We had a picture sent to us through the week from a guy called Alex Cross with his Ford Prefect. It's a nice little ute. You reckon that one, Webby?
Yeah, awesome, mate. I love it.
Absolutely. Oh, and I believe we've got some punters that we can look at from events coming up.
Yeah, we have. So the entrance this week for Red Centre Nats, we've got 93, which is entrant 93, Ben Kitson in the really nice blue 68 Mustang Coupe. He's from the Northern Territory. For Motorex, I've got entrant 104, Keith Clapp, and 77 Valiant Charger. Really good to see. I just can't believe how many Valiants have been worked on in all these shops now. So they're really coming to the fore. And Summer Nats, we got number 57, Darren Carson, with the purple 57 Chev Coupe. So something a little bit different there from the north. And then Rocky Nats. Interesting after the conversation we've just had with Howard. So this is very appropriate. Got 787 Debbie Schaefer. It's a red 74 XB2 with a McLeod Ford horn pack. And that is really a classic piece of Australian muscle history. So I really can't wait to see that car. But also there, we've got to remember that, as you mentioned earlier, May 31st is the entry cut-off and the price rise for Summer Nats. We've got already over 1,000 entries. So to guarantee your entry, get it in now.
Yeah, and absolutely. And this year's event, or the event just gone, rather, sold out.
Yes.
So it was full. So if you want to save a bit on your Summer Nats entry, make sure you get your entry in before May 31 on that.
Absolutely.
Next week's show, we've got a very interesting show. It's going to be a cracker. We have Summer Nats, the first Summer Nats Grand Champion, which was a part of the quiz a few weeks ago, I believe.
Yes.
Rob Beecham. He won 3 in a row in his VL Commodore, and he's on the show, and that's going to be a great interview. Then we have rugby league legend Rod Wishart, who's actually a bit of a car guy, right, Webby?
Yeah, absolutely. He's an unbelievable Australian sporting hero.
Absolutely.
But into cars as well. So I'm really looking forward to that interview.
And speaking about heroes, one of Summer Nats' heroes, Victor Bray and Ben Bray, and obviously drag racing heroes and legends of the sport. Pioneers, you could call them, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to be another big week, mate.
Absolutely, absolutely. So don't forget, Summer Nats 2021 tickets are on sale now, and entries as well. And you get that discount before May 31 on entries into Summer Nats. I'm certainly keen for some events to come up. Webby, you must be ready to go.
Yeah. Let's go.
Absolutely. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on wherever you get your podcasts from, as well as our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. Give this podcast a like. And that's pretty much it for Podcast 8. Thanks, Owen.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh.
No worries. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Cheers.
See ya. Coming up on Podcast 9. Drag racing royalty Victor Bray and Ben Bray. Summer Nats 1 Grand Champion Rob Beecham. Rugby League legend Rod Wishart. Webby and I will see you Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mad.